Everyone, I hope you all had a good weekend. Once again, I want to thank Dr. Mark Kerouac, the President and CEO of Bay State Health Systems, and Dr. Robert Roos, the Chief Medical Officer of Trinity, of Mercy Hospital, Trinity Healthcare, for being here. To our sign language professionals, thank you very, very much for being here. We appreciate that. And again, to Patrick Leonardo and AMR, they've been great, great partners, and we appreciate that. To my cabinet heads and to rank and file, thank you for your families. Thank you for your continued and dedicated efforts. As I always say, you've been tested and true. We all have through a number of natural man-made disasters. Thank you on that. To the media, Focus Springfield, to the TV media, News 20, TV 22 and 40, and to radio and print, thank you for getting out this important information. And just as importantly, thank you, each and every one of our residents of the business community of the city of Springfield, for your continued patience, understanding, cooperation, and collaboration. I know it's been aggravating to all of us, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we are heading in the right direction. Before we start, I wanted to have a moment of silence for two individuals. One who was taken by COVID-19, Frank Langone, a legendary florist, Langone's florist, 50 years on the South End, and heart and soul community man in South End, caring, hardworking individual and family man who we lost this past week. And to Chris Tebow, a young man, very talented videographer and filmmaker who did a lot of work for the city of Springfield and also for the Spirit of Springfield. Very young, great family man, and they both passed away, and they've left an indelible mark here in the city of Springfield. The legacies will continue on. So we just have a moment of silence for them. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now we'll go through some updates and stats. Also, today is Supermarket Employee Day, and we want to thank and congratulate each and every one of our supermarket employees. Many a times we take things for granted. So simply put, a big, big thank you and good health to all the supermarket employees and their families. And I want to give a shout out to the Demore family, Big Y Foods, who have always been a great corporate citizen. An update from Commissioner Helen Carlton Harris. And Helen, I want to thank Helen. No matter all the work that cabinet heads we continue to do around the clock, Helen still is out there. She did the Forest Park Civic Association last night. We have our Vax Force meeting coming up tomorrow, and I believe Commissioner Monica Burrell, State Public Health Commissioner, will be on that meeting. And she'll be at C3, Mason Square, our neighborhood policing with Commissioner Clapper's team to give an update on our continued efforts to defeat this COVID-19, and we appreciate that. Since this ordeal has started, our total confirmed COVID-19 cases now has moved up to 17,341. This month, right now, is totaling at 1,667. The weekly tally is 593. We continue the Stop the Spread, Governor Baker Stop the Spread testing in partnership with AMR, Patrick Leonardo up at the Eastfield Mall. We continue to do testing, making it a little more intimate in our neighborhood sites with Commissioner Helen Carlton Harris and AMR, Rebecca Johnson School, Putnam Vocational Technical Academy, and in the Orchard, Kennedy Middle School. We continue the vaccine, mass vaccine site for shots at the Eastfield Mall with Governor Baker and Curative. Since we've intervention and worked all together, it's run much, much smoother. We've received a number of compliments on how smooth that is running. Governor Baker and the Department of Public Health has indicated that if 65 years and older, you are now eligible for that vaccine. If you have two comorbidities now, no matter what age you are, you do qualify. You do qualify. We have continued with our telephone banks, and I want to thank Mr. Helen Carlton-Harris, HHS, Elder Affairs, Sandy Federico, the libraries, Molly Fogarty, will continue to take calls. United Way to 211 with Governor Baker, that continues. And I want to thank Sheriff Cochie's crew that are also taking phone calls to navigate, especially our senior citizens or individuals who are having trouble applying to get that appointment for the vaccination. Also, my Italian Cultural Center and the South End Citizens Council is doing vaccine assistance. I believe this Tuesday it'll be bilingual to help Spanish speakers also. So the ICC and South End Citizens Council, Leo Forian and the ICC, thank you very much for doing that, opening doors so individuals can get vaccinated, get on the list. Commissioner Carlton-Harris and I continue to push for vaccines so we can do neighborhood sites. She's working very closely with Director Patrick Sullivan as we continue to do logistics and sites. If we can get some vaccines, again, we'd like to do that and to our neighborhoods and individuals that might need that, so we're waiting to see if we can get some vaccines from the state. Senior citizen outreach continues. Home delivery of meals continues. This past week, I was honored to do, and I want to commend 22 News for setting aside an hour and a half of their prime time news time to put a town hall together. And I had the honor and pleasure to be associated with that, with Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos, and Senator Eric Lesser. And I think the most important point was, forget me or forget Senator Lesser, having Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos on for an hour and a half to answer any and all questions from the viewers. So that's very, very appreciative, and I think it was hopefully helpful to the viewers. We appreciate that. On some updates, we continue my meetings with Council President Marcus Williams, been very good. This past meeting was with Commissioner Clapprood and Solicitor Pakula on continued police initiatives and police reform. We appreciate that. Update meeting with President John Cook of Springfield Technical Community College, who's been a good partner. Myself and Chief of Staff Tom Ash. I want to congratulations to Springfield's very own Ruth Carter, Academy Award-winning costume designer, Black Panther. I just was on a Zoom meeting call with her last week or the week before on another subject that we're looking to do, but she's going to get her on a Hollywood Walk of Fame, her own star dedication, which I believe is only the second one ever for costume design. So Ruth, and to the Carter family in Springfield, congrats and way to go. Symphony Hall, we were just there last week, $1.8 million. Renovations done, tremendous. I want to thank TJ Plant, my CFO, on the money, Pat Sullivan, Sheriff Cochie, and crew and his workforce, the local contractors we put on. Absolutely tremendous, and John Kerrigan. All the lighting is state-of-the-art. It's like Star Wars in there. It's fantastic. The audio, top-notch. All the rooms have been done. And as Tim Sheehan will say, Director Tim Sheehan, CDO, we got to be ready to rock and roll once we defeat this COVID-19. Bigger and better shows coming to Symphony Hall, plus the respect of our renowned Springfield Symphony Orchestra. So just wait until you see it. It's fantastic. I want to commend the Mass Military Support Foundation, Eastfield Mall, who reached out to me. Unfortunately, I could not make it with my schedule, but more importantly, they gave out many, many coats, free coats to our veterans, so thank you to the Eastfield Mall, and thank you to the Mass Military Support Foundation for continuing to help out our beloved veterans. I have a Comcast public hearing scheduled for tomorrow night. Attorney Kathy Breck is my point person on that, and we want to hear from the public. I will be making some remarks. We only have so much control over Comcast. It's mainly federal and state regulatory agencies, but I will continue to fight for the best deal for our residents and business community here in the city of Springfield. Habitat for Humanity, this week, another house, sweat equity and volunteers. 175 Bloomfield Street will be christening another house and family going into that home. The new Jewish Community Center Director, Samantha Sam Dobrinsky, I'll be meeting with her. They reached out. I'll be meeting with her. We've partnered very well with the JCC and the Jewish Federation this week. As we close out Black History Month, as someone and family's been a friend for many years, but we always close it out, and I want to thank Commissioner Bernard B.J. Calvi in honoring the late Lenny Corbin, who was the first Black African-American firefighter ever hired in the city of Springfield's history. We have a monument and his dedication. We always close out Black History Month with a fire department and with Lenny Corbin's family, Brother Eddie, to be there. That's coming up this week. We also celebrate our diversity this Saturday with my assistant, Minnie Marrero, at 12 noon, City Hall, following all COVID-19, outside COVID-19 public health protocols. The Dominican flag raising, we proudly do that every year, and that's really headed DPW engineer Vladimir Cascaris is really the lead on that, and we appreciate that. Once again, standing up for our brothers and sisters of Jewish heritage. We continue to stand with other mayors across the United States on the anti-Semitism and hate that we cannot tolerate. I'd also like to give a special happy 75th, that's right, 75th, 75 years, wedding anniversary to Robert and Dolores Lewis. Some couples are lucky to last 75 months, let alone 75 years. Robert Lewis was one of the first Black African-American police officers to come on the Springfield Police Department. They look fantastic. 75 years married. So congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Robert Lewis, Robert and Dolores Lewis. We also continue with the food bank, with the Oasis Food Bank, John Foley, Food Bank of Western Massachusetts, Sedesco, Central High School, and the city. On Fridays, we continue to serve about 3,500 families every Friday. Unfortunately, we did have some deaths that occurred. There was 2 more new. That brings the tally to 211. Of that, white, 89, 42.1%. Black, 46, 21.8%. Hispanic, 69, 32.7%. Asian, 7, 3.3%. Of those deaths, the trend has been mainly residential. 152 residential, which is 72%. Long-term care facilities, 59, which is 28%. Brief update, and the cabinet heads will speak more specifically on their departments. Springfield Police Department, Commissioner Clapper indicates to me that she's only down one with COVID-19. That's quite good news from the days when we were hovering near 40 out. Commissioner Clapper would also speak of March 1st, a license to carry LTCs will begin opening for appointments. She'll elaborate more on that. Knock on wood, I want to jinx ourselves, another quiet weekend. She's going to speak to you, and please heed this advice and warning on scammers, scamming our senior citizens. She'll speak specifically on that they're looking to give you rides, the vaccine shot. They're looking to help you with your taxes. And the SOBs will say that they kidnapped your grandchild too. So Commissioner Clapwood will speak of that, and please, to our seniors, heed that advice. We continue our Department of Justice meetings. We had another one last week. And again, I told you we met with Council President Williams, this time on police initiatives and reforms. A number of officers have retired from the Springfield Police Department. Commissioner Clapwood will go over that. But one I want to specifically give a shout out to, Edwin Irizarry, young officer too. He was shot up on State Street by an individual who was on probation and out for gun violations and gun possessions. Taking those shots that he got hit and saved other people's lives, this young officer now, who really wants to come back on duty, has been forced to retire because once again our court systems let someone go who should have been locked up to perpetrate a hideous crime, not only in a resident's business community, but to a Springfield police officer. So to Edwin Irizarry, I wish you and your family good health, my friend, and thank you for your brave and dedicated services. Springfield Fire Department, Commissioner Calvi indicates he has 2 down, 1 in the firefighters rank, 1 in dispatcher. He will speak to you again about ice safety, as will Director Pat Sullivan. He'll speak to you about the Lenny Corman Memorial as we close out Black History Month. But a couple fires, Clarendon Street, the weekend, in Primrose Street in the Orchard. Thank God nobody was hurt. And our new dispatch center, coordinated dispatch center with Springfield Fire and Police, has opened, and we'll be doing something with the media in the very near future. That is something we worked on for a while, and that's quite a testament. So to Commissioner Calvi and everybody involved, congratulations and thank you. DPW, Director Chris Signoli indicates he's down 2 with COVID-19. He will give you a storm update, or what is considered a storm update today. There was another water main break. That's water and sewer, Boston Road, Wilbraham Line near Friendly's. And that happens a lot with the expansion and contraction of the weather. I'll update you on that. School Superintendent Warwick indicates we have now served 6,228,152 meals to our students and families. Again, that is breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. 73,844 went out this weekend. Working with Director Patrick Sullivan, the school's retrofits continues. The hybrid return update, Superintendent Warwick will give you that. We have a school committee meeting this Thursday evening. And Fall 2 sports, which encompasses football and volleyball, will be starting sometime early in March. We'll do the testing with Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris, as we did before with the current season, which has gone very successful. I want to thank Assistant Superintendent Lydia Martinez and Athletic Director A.D. Dwayne Early for their efforts, and Nurse Clancy from the school department. Finance. My CAFO, TJ Plan, indicates to me since this ordeal has started, we are down $7.9 million. In my FY21 year, as we continue to work to build our FY22 budget, we are down $3 million. Total spent to provide for our residents and business community, deficit and grants, $31.8 million. Of that, we've been able to offset or pawn off $23.4 million in grants, $8.4 million deficit spending to make sure that we provide for our residents and business community. Our normal monthly state delegation meeting is Friday. Facilities and Parks, Pat Sullivan, knock on wood, it's fantastic. He is down no one COVID-19. He continues to work very hard with his team on retrofitting the schools and our municipal buildings. We're also working on making it convenient for our constituents to be able to pay their bills with outdoor exterior window type aspects, which we'll be announcing sometime in March, make it much more convenient for one of those high traffic areas of paying bills. He'll speak to you about ice safety. He'll also want to speak to you about tree plantings. And he continues to work very closely with Commissioner Carlton Harris on our potential, hopeful vaccine neighborhood sites. Echo Dev Chief Development Officer Tim Sheehan, COVID-19, he's down 2. He continues to monitor very, very closely the federal and state stimulus packages so we can get those out to when and if they do come out again to the residents' business community. Wayfinders is partnered with us. We've given out a lot of money for rents, mortgages, and utilities. That is dwindling down. He'll give you an update on that. He continues to parcel out money for our small businesses. I think a couple more loans go out today. He's got 10 more in the pipeline. Continue to work with Catholic Charities with our homeless population. And again, I really want to stress that the outreach on the street is extremely important for our police department. Many a times it's not a criminal activity, it's a mental health or drug activity, and that outreach is deeply needed. Timmy will also update you on technical assistance for our small businesses, and workforce development continues also to give you an update on that. Law, HR, and Labor, Solicitor Plukula, again, we continue with our Department of Justice meetings. And Attorney Bill Mahoney updated me on HR and Labor. With that, I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos. When they are done, as we've done before, so they get back to their important duties at their respective medical institutions, we will take questions. So without further ado, the President and CEO of Bay State Health Systems, Dr. Mark Kerouac.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for hosting these events, for the opportunity, and thanks for the cooperation with your team. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. This is an association of accomplished African American women in Greater Springfield who hosted a forum last night to discuss the issues of vaccine hesitancy and all the questions around the vaccine. It's attended by about 150 people. The group is led by Reverend Kimberly Struthers, includes such luminaries as Denise Jordan, your former Chief of Staff, Mayor, currently head of the Springfield Housing Authority and on the Bay State Health Board, and facilitated by Carol Woolridge, the daughter of the former chair of the board of Bay State Health. So very much appreciate the sorority taking on this issue and getting the word out and to protect the community. The rate of COVID-19 cases in our communities has continued to decline, even though we passed a fairly grim milestone last weekend, 500,000 deaths due to the virus. Sadly, we've paid a heavy price in our country for the haphazard response to this, as well as for the politicization of protective measures and our underfunding of public health. Despite all this, though, we are getting better. Daily new cases are consistently below 100,000 a day, and hospitalizations across the country are below 100,000. Massachusetts is at 538,000 cases with over 15,000 deaths, but excuse me, new cases continue below 2,000 a day, with hospitalization numbers also below 1,000. And test positivity rates have remained very low at only 2%. Cases at Bay State Health have also been on the decline, a bit more slowly than the rest of the state, but we've managed to stay below 100 for a few weeks now. Today, we're at 86 across the system, 80 at the Springfield campus, 6 in our community hospitals, 11 in critical care. Our test positivity rate also is falling, currently at 3.8%. Our vaccination center is moving through phase 2. We're now onto the second step of the 4-step process. As the mayor noted, anybody who is over the age of 65 or who has 2 or more chronic conditions, things like diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, heart disease, lung disease, cancer, or who is a resident of a low-income or subsidized senior housing facility is eligible to be vaccinated. Next up are the essential workers. These would be folks in early education, K through 12 education, transit, grocery, public works, etc. There's a full list on the state website. And then finally, individuals of any age with one medical condition. At that point, we would then move to phase 3, which would be the general public. The United States has given out over 63 million vaccines, with over 43 million people receiving at least one dose. Massachusetts has administered 1.6 million doses, with about 1 million receiving at least one dose. About 81% of the allocated vaccine to the state has been administered. Happily, our allocations went up to 135,000 this week. That's up from about 105,000 in the weeks before. And we expect further increases during the month of March with the ramping up of Pfizer and Moderna supply and the likely release of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I want to give a shout out and thank you to both the Governor and Congressman Neal, who worked hard to make sure that the delivery of those 135,000 doses happened on schedule despite the snow delays across the country. Based on the report from last week, the state is vaccinating at a 7-day average rate of 30,000 a day, but every once in a while they have good days where they do over 50,000 in a day, typically early in the week when supply is more plentiful. And it strikes me that they should be able to sustain that going forward. We're still a little bit short of the 40,000 first doses and 40,000 second doses we would need to do to hit our goal of immunizing a little over 4 million people by the summer. Bay State Health received a 25% increase in its allotment, so we, we received 2,500 first doses this week of Moderna. We are also providing second doses to everybody who got their first dose with us. I would plead to people not to switch sites between your first and second doses. That makes the record keeping kind of a pain in the neck. So if you get your first dose at one place, please get your second dose there as well. We apportion part of our weekly allocation to Franklin County and to our health centers in Springfield, Mason Square, High Street, and Brightwood. We have about 500 appointments on the books right now for vaccine. These would be for high-risk individuals who fit the criteria of phase 2, and we've been contacting them directly rather than having them go through the state website. However, as supplies expand, we will need to do more in Greater Springfield, including other public-facing sites beyond the Eastfield Mall, and we're exploring ways to support the Springfield Department of Public Health within this effort, as well as other local boards of health in their efforts to open additional public-facing sites. We appreciate the collaboration with the Springfield DPH, as well as a statewide consortium via the Mass Health and Hospital Association to develop public service announcements regarding the vaccine. Roughly a third of people are still not quite sure that they would take it if offered, and there are some groups where that number gets as high as 50%. And it's important that trusted voices answer all questions people might have so that we don't get stuck in terms of people not wanting the vaccine even when we're able to give it. The vaccines are highly effective, and the risk of side effects, meaning sore arm or a sort of mini case of fevers and chills for a day or so, are very minor compared with the risk of serious illness due to COVID-19, even among younger people. So until you're eligible for vaccine, remember there's still a lot of virus around, even though the numbers are going down. It's no time to relax on the public health measures of masking, social distancing, and avoiding crowds. I continue to be optimistic, though, based on the increasing numbers of people being vaccinated, as well as the immunity caused by those already infected, that we still will be looking at the easing of restrictions early this summer and be pretty much close to providing vaccine to everybody who wants it. So, Mr. Mayor, I thank you for your time and for hosting these events, and I guess I will pass it over now to Dr. Roos.
Thank you, Dr. Kramer. Dr. Robert Roos, the Chief Medical Officer, Mercy Hospital, Trinity Healthcare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Thanks as always for your leadership amidst this pandemic and that of your team. And a thank you to the media as well for continuing to cover these events each week and also providing forums at other points to get fact-based information out in a timely manner. I hope everybody had a nice weekend. Perhaps you might have even spent a little bit of time outside. Although we're not yet through the cold of the winter, I will say myself that the sun felt a bit nice. And to me, the weekend in some ways felt a little bit like a reflection of where we are amidst this pandemic. This has been a very long, cold, dark winter in history. And as was mentioned, we have either already crossed or are approaching some very bleak milestones. 2.5 million deaths across the world, 500,000 of them here in the United States. And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention put out a preliminary report last week that the average life expectancy dropped by a full year here in the United States in the first half of 2020. This was a level that had not been seen in 15 years. However, as we continue to see the declining rates of infections, hospitalizations, and deaths, as well as the increasing numbers of those vaccinated, I do believe that the hope and the renewal of a spring finally seems to be on the horizon. So I will continue to exercise caution now, recognizing that this is not going to happen right away. The threat of setbacks or new challenges continues to be around many corners, but it does truly feel like we are inching our way forward. It's now the 6th week in a row where we've seen the trends in the numbers of new infections, hospitalizations, and deaths at the national, state, and local level move in the right direction. The 7-day average of new infections dropped by another 44% over the past 2 weeks across the country and is under 70,000 for the first time since mid-October. Hospitalizations have also decreased by 35% in the last 2 weeks, and we're now below 60,000 in total. Neither of those numbers are anywhere close to the rates or the numbers where we would recommend wide-scale changes, but they are trending positively, and over the last 6 to 7 weeks have not shown too much of a sign of slowing down, so it's good things. Here in Massachusetts, the trend has also been similar. In fact, over the past 2 weeks, the decline of the 7-day average of new cases per day dropped by over 55%. It was down to under 1,200 today, which is a full 5,000 infections per day less than it was at its peak on January 8th. The number of hospitalized cases also dropped 35% over the past 2 weeks and is at the lowest since Thanksgiving. And the test positivity rate now down below 2% statewide for the first time since the beginning of November. At Mercy Medical Center, our decline in the numbers of new infections and test positivity rate has also continued. Over the past week, our test positivity rate dropped to 5%, down from a recent high of 13%, and we had fewer positive tests in the past week than we had in any week since October. Still higher than many of the weeks throughout the entire summer, but nevertheless moving in the right direction. Our hospitalizations, however, this past week did not decrease further. It continues to fluctuate between 20 and 30, and as of this morning, we were actually up on the higher side and have 30 hospitalized patients at Mercy Medical Center with COVID, of which 3 are in the intensive care unit. And in each case, each patient hospitalized, it still is a reminder then that people are still being impacted by this virus, which has the potential to lead to serious illness and in some cases death. So even with these positive trends, I think it's notable to talk a little bit about the fact that we are not out of the woods yet. We still have some time until we achieve herd immunity, which truly is the light at the end of the tunnel. So just to review, herd immunity is a concept, right, when we have sufficient numbers or percentages of people that have immunity to the virus so that the spread of the infectious disease, in this case the coronavirus, becomes so low that it becomes rare or even in some cases imperceptible. Everyone then, when you have herd immunity, has some form of indirect protection because there's enough people around them that have true immunity, either through natural infection or vaccination, that the virus doesn't and can't easily find a host to spread to. We know that we will likely need over 80% of the population to be immune to COVID in order to reach herd immunity. That's part of the fact it's due to the fact that the virus itself is quite infectious. And we know that this immunity can come either through natural infection or through vaccination, right? And likely now and in the near future, it will come through a combination of both. There are certainly different estimates of when it will occur. There was an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal this past weekend where it was stated that it could come as early as April, with very high estimates of the numbers of people who may have natural immunity, or there's estimates that push this out till the end of December or perhaps even into next year. I personally believe it's going to be somewhere in between those two. Hopefully, if vaccination rates continue and can continue to escalate sometime over the summer, between July and September. It is going to be closely related to the rate of vaccination here in the United States, but also across the world. And I think that the declines in infections that we're seeing now is a result of both individuals with natural immunity and those receiving vaccinations. And that's the pathway that we must unequivocally continue to support as we look to reach herd immunity going forward. On that front, according to the CDC, more than 63 million vaccines have been administered, 43.6 million firsts, and almost 19 million have received the full series. If we look at about the 210 million adults that are living in the U.S., that's about 20% of the adult population having received one vaccine, and about 8 to 9% having received both. When we factor in all individuals, the rates, of course, are lower. When we consider children who can still spread the disease, it's only about 13 to 14% having received one dose and about 6% having received both. We still have a long way to go. That means we're going to need 2 to 3 million vaccines administered every day if we want to get there by summer, depending on the numbers of people who have natural immunity. The good news that came out this week from a smaller study in Israel is that there is likely even higher protection from one dose of the mRNA vaccines than was previously reported in the trials, perhaps even as high as 85% or greater, which lends some support that even now, when a larger percentage of people have received one dose and a smaller have received their second dose yet, we may be seeing some impact already on some of the declining rates. But we do need to watch the global vaccination rate as well and continue to be cautious with our travel. As we know that there still can be the spread of variants of concern that can introduce themselves to the country at any point. Massachusetts has administered now over 1.4 million doses, which does represent over 80% of all the doses shipped here. And I will say that Massachusetts has escalated its rollout very significantly over the past month. As of the end of last week, with over 1 million first doses administered, Massachusetts was ranking 6th for first doses administered per capita across the country and first for first doses per capita among states with more than 5 million residents, according to the CDC. With almost 400,000 people having fully completed their series, those totals also represent about 20% of the adult population having received one dose and about 8% having received both. So it is worth noting, I think, that despite the many, many challenges, and we have talked about them here, and many of you have felt them, and perhaps some missteps with the rollout overall, vaccines are in fact getting into arms much more briskly now than they were earlier on, which is in no small part due to the efforts of hospitals, departments of health, local municipalities, state and federal elected officials who have advocated for improvements in both process as well as securing more supply. So thank you. As you know, and as was reviewed last Thursday, Governor Baker announced 3 new categories of people who are eligible to receive vaccination: those over 65, those with 2 or more certain medical conditions, and those that are living in public or private low-income or affordable senior housing. Some of the conditions that qualify are found on the website, but they do include cancer, chronic lung, heart, or kidney disease, sickle cell disease, moderate to severe asthma, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and smoking. And as a reminder, according to the guidance, you do not need to provide documentation of these when you show up for your appointment, but you do need to attest under the penalties of perjury that the information you're providing is accurate. As you might imagine, the announcement of over 1 million people becoming eligible at the end of the last week led to a massive increase in demand for vaccination. And just as the state was dealing with limited supply, some severe weather hit across the country, and there were concerns about the availability of vaccines being delivered into the Commonwealth. So I want to recognize the efforts also that led to that vaccine arriving last week. And also that while vaccine appointments are hard to obtain, please be reassured that in the circumstance at Mercy Medical Center, if you have a scheduled appointment for a first or a second dose, we can confirm that we have the vaccine and the ability to provide that vaccine as scheduled. We did receive our shipment on Friday, and we have not had to cancel any appointments. We are, however, completely booked for this week. We will be opening up some vaccine appointments for the weeks of March 1st and March 8th later today, so I encourage people to go back to our website or to the centralized website with the Department of Public Health, which is VAXfinder, vaxfinder.mass.gov, to locate appointments throughout the state. And lastly, in addition, I just want to comment that while we are escalating vaccine administration across the state, quite notably, I believe that in order for us to consider any local or national campaign an effective one, we need to ensure that it is an equitable one. I mentioned at the top of the update the drop in life expectancy over the first part of 2020. It should be recognized that the drop in life expectancy for non-Hispanic whites was only at 0.8 years. But for Hispanic individuals, it was 1.9 years, and for non-Hispanic blacks, it was 2.7 years. We already know that the impact of COVID on communities of color has not been equal. It has only perpetuated health disparities. But in terms of the rates of infections, but also complications and deaths. And this is the latest and most tragic evidence highlighting that fact. So we must continue to focus our efforts on ensuring that the therapies and the vaccines are distributed equitably, and I would go so far as to say prioritize the communities who are suffering disproportionate impact from this disease. With that, I do want to commend Mayor Sarno, Commissioner Helen Colton Harris, for leading the way here, ahead of the state in the city of Springfield, establishing a task force to help address this. And now the state has committed to devoting some resources and some targeted outreach to 20 of the hardest hit communities where some of the collaborative efforts in the local community can help address some of the barriers. I also want to highlight the critical role that hospitals like Mercy Medical Center and Bay State have in addressing these disparities through our community health programs on a daily basis. And also how our vaccine clinics are vehicles located right here in the community with expert medical care that people can trust, which will help overcome the barriers like transportation, reduce any vaccine hesitancy, and provide increased access. So we are proud to be part of that solution. We will continue to provide vaccines to all of our community. We consider it our mission and our daily work. And as we can see the hope ahead, it's an exciting time, but be reminded that we're not there yet. Please stay safe, be vigilant, wear an appropriately fitting mask, and please continue to plan on limiting your travel and gatherings for now. If we do this together, I am confident that we will see this through together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roos. Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos will now take questions and comments from the media. We'll make the rest of those here from 22, 40, Paul. Yeah.
Dr. Roos, just curious, the Mercy is on the state vac site. It is the only location that's not the pharmacy or the vac site. Is there some specific coordination that's going on between Mercy and the state such as being listed there?
No, we have been all throughout, once we established our vaccine clinic as a open vaccine clinic, meaning that community members could schedule, that we would be reflected on the Department of Public Health website. Initially, that was with the sort of Google map with the different colored stars, and that really just transferred over directly to the VaxFinder website, as I understand it. So I don't see why, I haven't looked at it myself in detail, why all of the open vaccine clinics wouldn't be reflected there. But it's not any particular other arrangement.
And this is a question for both of you. Has something changed in the past week from the allocation of vaccines to hospitals? Both of you seem a little more sanguine about the availability to your organizations and, well, I mean, more for less Americans, but I mean, than people who are moving about it.
So, I think when we step back 2 weeks when the department, when we had heard the message that hospitals should no longer schedule first dose appointments temporarily for at least 2 weeks, that gave us a lot of concern. From our perspective, what has changed is that was only a temporary announcement, and we have been confirmed to continue to receive vaccine on a scheduled basis for both first and second doses. And so we will be receiving that, if not tomorrow, I should be receiving it tomorrow or Wednesday for first doses going forward for the next 10 days or so. So I really just believe it was in fact a temporary pause, and there are hospitals and healthcare systems that are committed to continuing to provide vaccines for the community going forward. In our case, our allocation didn't increase, but it sounded like that may have in others.
Nothing to add to that, I agree.
And one other, just kind of, so this week, the state legislature is going to begin its oversight hearings on COVID, its first steps in looking at vaccine distribution. I'm just curious if either of you have been invited to, or your organization been invited to speak to this committee, and if not, anything that you want that committee to be aware of as they begin their local work moving forward.
I've not been invited to speak, but we brief the Western Mass delegation on a regular basis, which includes Senator Cumberford, who's the chair of that group. And we have consistently emphasized the importance of hospitals as a critical piece of the vaccine efforts. Obviously, we're the ones who are in contact with the most fragile, vulnerable individuals who have chronic diseases. And so for us to reach out to those individuals, I think is a critical part, and it, of course, supplements the activities of getting the vaccine out more broadly to the general public.
Any other questions?
Nothing to add, I have nothing. No, it's okay.
Either Dr. Stancis, we've seen a dramatic drop in the long-term care facility once the vaccines are done, it's about half of us. Do we expect to see that same drop once the general population starts getting the vaccines, or will there be a difference?
I think we're already seeing it. If you look back around the new year, we were seeing 250,000 new cases a day, and yesterday there were 70,000 new cases a day. So really the dramatic drop is already starting to happen across the country, and it is a combination of the people who have been vaccinated, at least 40 million, the people who have been infected. We know about 28 million of those individuals, and depending on who you talk to, there's a whole number, multiple underestimate. I myself believe there are 2 or 3 times as many who've been infected. So all of a sudden, you're talking about a lot of people who've been exposed to the virus who have protective immunity of some kind. And I believe that plus the more consistent use of masking and social distancing is accounting for the rapid drop that we're seeing. And it's what gives me optimism that we may actually have something approaching a normal summer.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing of Dr. Kerouac, Dr. Russo, thank you so much. Good health to you and your family and your staff. Thank you for what you continue to do for us. Before I bring up Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris again, I want to echo the sentiments of Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos in thanking Congressman Chairman Neil Ritchie and Governor Baker. Many states were affected by not getting their full allocation of vaccines. It's all about relationships and working together and mutual respect that Massachusetts was able to garner their vaccines. And as the governor has stated to me, he's trying to get as much vaccine as he can to get shots in the arm. So Congressman Neal, Chairman Neal, thank you. I know other states did not receive their allocations. We did, and there was an increase. And hospitals were also honored. We're hopeful that the city of Springfield can also receive an allotment. So as we've done with testing, we can take it more to the neighborhoods at that point in time. At this point in time, my point person on defeating this COVID-19 is the Commissioner of Health and Human Services for the city of Springfield, Helen Colton Harris. She will give her update.
Thank you, Mayor Sarno, as always, for your support. I want to start by thanking the Forest Park Civic Association for inviting me to your annual meeting yesterday. I am extremely appreciative of being able to join you. I want to thank the chair of the Forest Park Civic Association, City Councilor Victor Davila. Councilor Walsh attended as well, Councilor Allen, and the chair of the COVID-19 task force for the City Council, Councilor Letterman. Thank you. So thank you for that. Tomorrow we will be, I will be a part of an informational panel for the C3 Civic Association, I'm sorry, the C3 Mason Square team, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to say hello to a relative of mine, Carrie B. Briscoe, who is in a nursing home facility. You called me yesterday. I wasn't able to talk to you, but I'm glad to hear your voice and know that you are doing well at 84 years old. So thank you for reaching out to me. Going to start with the data. Sunday's data was 70 cases, Monday 76, Tuesday 70, Wednesday 49, Thursday 117, Friday 137, and Saturday 74. As you can see, Thursday and Friday we experienced in the city of Springfield a surge on those 2 days. We are in the process of looking at that data to try to drill down a little bit to try to figure out what it was in reference to. Potentially, it could be a Super Bowl surge, we're not sure, but what we do know is that it is small clusters of individuals gathering. So we can look at the streets, look at the zip codes, and see that in very specific areas where that surge occurred. The exact reason, again, I am not sure of. We are seeing slight upticks in the cases from colleges in the area, so that could potentially contribute to some of those numbers. The good news is that on Saturday it went back down to 74. We want to see it go lower, but at least on that particular day, we're headed back in the right direction. In the data for the age groups, 74 in 0 to 10, 84, 11 to 20, 115, 20 to 30, 31 to 40, 107, 41 to 50, 66, 51 to 60, 67, 61 to 70, 42, 71 to 80, 29, 81 to 90, 8, and 91 to 100, one case. Again, when we look at the donut circle for the age group, you can see that 75% of the individuals with a positive case last week were under the age of 50, and 46% of those cases were under the age of 30. 25% were 51 and older, so we are still experiencing primarily a under 50 and under 30 surge as far as the cases in the city are concerned. When we look at the, I'm going to say 7-week, although 6 weeks are reflected here, the January 1st through 3rd, that was the 1,177 cases. That was the high, if you remember. And then what we saw was the cases drop for 5 weeks after that. This is the first week that we have seen a surge in cases, or an increase in cases, I should say, since the week of January 10th. That is an increase of 62 cases. So the 593 is 62 cases more than we had last week for the 531. The line graph shows you again the cases and where the surge is right now. There's 1,677 cases that we're experiencing as of February 14th. I'm sorry, February 20th. The zip codes, moving to the zip codes. 01 is 1%, 01, 6 cases, 1%, 03, 5 cases, 1%, 04, 116 cases, 20%, 05, 74 cases, 12%, 07, 43 cases, 7%, 08, 84 cases, 14%, 09, 108 cases, 18%, 18, 46 cases, 8%, 19, 58 cases, 10%, 28, 3 cases, 1%, 29, 26 cases, 4%, and then 51, 24 cases, which is also 4% of the cases in the city. Last week was a week that we saw across the city individuals who I observed because I went to businesses. I just want to remind our businesses what I observed for the most part was businesses that are continuing to be vigilant about face coverings. However, I did see some businesses where the enforcement was not where I believe that it should be. I will continue to go to the stores. We have not fined any business, and I'm talking mainly about the big box businesses. We will continue to go to those businesses. I have spoken with managers at these businesses, and I have told you that the mask requirement is still enforced. I have told you that we still have powers as a Board of Health to do mitigation efforts, and we will do that. And so I continue to ask you to be vigilant about asking your patrons to wear face coverings. The other thing I observed was more than the 40% that was in some of the stores. And so what I am asking is that you do adhere to the governor's guidelines around the capacity indoors. It has increased, but it is not that everyone can be in the stores all at once. And so there is a capacity limit. Again, I am not talking about small businesses for the most part. I'm talking about the large box stores in the city of Springfield. Be reminded, we are still out there, we are still in a pandemic, and we will still enforce the regulations as put forth by the governor's office. Testing, AMR, thank you again. They tested 146,110 individuals. 62,758 of those individuals are Springfield residents, and the positives, 13,595. Rebecca Johnson, we shuttered last week because of weather. They will be up tomorrow. Kennedy went live last week. Both of those sites are reporting low numbers, and so we want you to know that those sites are operating 1 day a week. We will assess those sites in 3 more weeks to see where the numbers are. Again, the goal is to make sure that all of our residents have access. Schools, we are testing the athletes tomorrow in order to get ready for sports. I again want to thank the superintendent, the mayor, the school committee, AD Early, Lydia Martinez, the assistant superintendent, as well as the nursing supervisor, Jeannie Clancy. It has been an amazing experience working with such competent professionals. VaxForce is meeting tomorrow. VaxForce will be standing up a town hall. We believe we have a date. We believe that date is March 11th, but look forward to this amazing group of professionals giving information to the community. So I am, again, we will confirm the date, but at this point, that is the date that we are looking at. We did complete, for the most part, the second doses of the 1,400 individuals that we began with the first responders, and so that has happened. We will have other doses, and we will be standing up other clinics. We believe very strongly, and the mayor has been very clear about this, that we need to have vaccination sites in neighborhoods. If you recall the data that Dr. Roos gave you, then access to vaccines is critical. And it is critical that those sites are in those neighborhoods where those individuals live. Again, I am grateful to AMR, who will be partnering with us as we continue to try to vaccinate Springfield residents. Vaccine observation, we were pleased to host individuals from the governor's office, and Jose Delgado and Pat Carnevale came over to Bowling School to observe our operations. We are grateful that they were there. We are grateful for their support. Because what we're clear about is that there is a pandemic of fear and anxiety. And we want to address that pandemic of fear and anxiety by giving comprehensive information and also making sure that we have clinics in those neighborhoods, and so those individuals can really see where we are and how we operate. So again, the governor's individuals came to our site to work with us to talk about vaccines, fear, anxiety, and making sure that we are working together to get as many shots in the arms as possible. I'm going to say it again, you've heard it once, people 75 and older can get vaccinated, 65 to 74 can get vaccinated, people with 2 comorbidities can get vaccinated, low income and affordable housing, senior housing resident staff, first responder, long-term care settings, and congregate care settings. People with 2 comorbidities, as the mayor has said, do not have to be individuals who are 65 and older. Again, it's important to say this. We're all anxious to get vaccinated, but we want to make sure those individuals who are vulnerable in terms of their health are getting vaccinated. And I say that because we are not asking for documentation. We are asking you to attest to the comorbidities. Please try to make sure that you are getting vaccinated if it is your time. I want to also say that this virus is a respiratory disease. This is pretty much for these businesses that I went to over the weekend. So we know that this virus is spread by droplets. These droplets can land in the noses and mouths of others, which spread the COVID-19 virus. So when individuals are in stores, when they're in places where other individuals are around, that 6 feet separation, those face coverings are important. So masks should be worn anytime you're in a public setting, anytime you're traveling on a plane, bus, train, when you're around people who do not live with you, inside your home if you live with somebody that has symptoms, and businesses. Again, I'm asking you, please continue to adhere to our strategy. We have begun the process of recovery. It is important that we do not relapse. And so let's continue to work together to try to mitigate and do the public health strategies. Watch your distance, wash your hands, wear your mask, and please do not gather in large settings with individuals. Make sure that when you're in your homes, you are doing the mitigation efforts. And finally, there are individuals trying to take advantage of this situation, particularly with our elders. I'm going to ask families, if you have elder individuals in your family who may be vulnerable, please watch out for them, talk to them, because it is trusted individuals that they should be working with and trusting. I want to thank the Department of Elder Affairs, the libraries, Health and Human Services staff, who continue to take those telephone calls. We are moving in the right direction, but as everyone has told you, we are not out of this virus yet, and we all know that community spread is still out there. We know this is a respiratory infection. We have the information, and I'm asking you to put the strategies in place to mitigate the spread of this virus. Let's continue to go in the right direction. Let's continue to defeat COVID-19, because we are on the right trajectory. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Carlton-Harris. We'll now go into the public safety segment of this COVID-19 hospital city update. And I now will bring up the Fire Commissioner of the Springfield Fire Department, Bernard B.J. Calvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. The COVID update for the fire department this week is we have one person out with COVID at the fire department, and we have an additional person out with COVID at the dispatch center. So that's way down for us compared to where we were several weeks ago. We're in good shape. We're in full operation. So thank you to everybody at the fire department, at the dispatch center, for the hard work they've put in over the upswing we've had over the last couple months and keeping everybody safe and coming to work every day. So thank you to everybody for your hard work and dedication. I'd like to talk about ice safety again this week. We're having fluctuating temperatures. The ice is not safe to be on. Do not think it's safe. Do not go out there. If someone goes out and falls through the ice, call 911 immediately. The fire and police departments will be there, and we will get the people out if we can, because it's very dangerous. If you go into the water at this temperature, you have 2 to 3 minutes before you become hypothermic. Your arms start to stop working, and you will go under the ice and sink to the bottom. At that point, it becomes very difficult to recover you in a timely fashion. On a positive front this week, today we opened our joint dispatch center. It's been several years in the making, and it's finally come to fruition thanks to the leadership of the mayor. We've been able to join the fire and police dispatchers under one unified operation, and that opened this morning at Roosevelt Avenue. So we're getting all the kinks worked out this morning and getting everything up and running. So that's all I have for this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Calvi. And now the update from the Springfield Police Department by Springfield Police Commissioner Cheryl Clapper.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. As mentioned, the police department is down to just one COVID positive case, so things are looking up for us also. Starting next Monday, March 1st, we're going to start opening up the lobby and taking appointments for LTCs, the new and the renewals, and we'll start doing some more business in the police department lobby. So we ask your patience and realize that we're obviously backlogged, especially with the applications for license to carries. So call, get an appointment, and we'll get that done as soon as possible. We are going to add some hours that are off business hours, some evenings, see if we can keep it open maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll work on that with the staffing levels, and we'll certainly post those hours on our website and on the city website so we can start to get back to business as usual. I also want to congratulate and thank the men and women of the police department that are now retiring. We've had several retirees, too numerous. If I started to mention them, I would forget one, and that would be shameful. But I do want to mention Officer Ed Irizarry, who was shot in April of 2019 at State and Benton parking lot, and because of those injuries, he had to retire. So as the mayor mentioned, it was, again, another individual who probably shouldn't have been out on the street, that was out on the street, that causes a good officer to have to end his career short, and the experience and the time on the job and everything that we lose, and the trauma and everything that Officer Irizarry had to endure was probably needless. I would also like to emphasize that there are scams out there. We got a lot of calls over the weekend, mostly from senior citizens, and these scams, I think there's a little bit of an uptick. I think unfortunately people are taking advantage of the stressful times that we're under, because it's almost been a year that we've been dealing with COVID, and people who are been stuck in your house like seniors, they're traumatized, they're nervous, they're scared, they're exhausted. So when you get a call in the middle of the night from someone that says, we have your granddaughter, we need you to send some money in this direction or that direction, or hey, would you like a ride to receive your vaccine? We'll do it for $50. Or would you like some help with your taxes? Obviously, if anyone is contacting you and you haven't contacted them, please call the police department first. A lot of seniors don't understand how people are able to get information on your relatives, and if you don't understand it, please talk to some relatives that are close to your friends, close to you. When you Google anyone, a lot of information comes up. So they get first names of relatives, of friends, of situations, things that you wouldn't think anyone would know but that individual person, and it's not true. It's a scam, and if you have any doubts, call us. Call us, tell us the number it came from. We can check to see if anyone is missing or hurt. We'll do a well-being check. Anybody else that wants to do your taxes besides a reputable tax accountant or firm, they're just after your information. Don't do that. And again, no one should be charging for you to have a ride to get the vaccine. Call us. If that's happening to you, we'll give you an assist, or call a trusted relative or friend before that takes place. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Clapperud, and again, heed that advice from Commissioner Clapperud and Commissioner Colton Harris, our beloved seniors out there, and don't listen to those SOBs that reach out to you. We'll now get an update of Springfield Public Schools, and that will be from the Superintendent of Springfield Public Schools, Daniel Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor. Morning, everyone. As the Mayor said earlier, we're thrilled with a meals program. As of Friday, we've provided 6,228,152 meals for families. And this weekend alone, 73,844. So great work by the staff of the Springfield Public Schools, Pat Roach and his team, and Tim Gray, and our partner, Sodexo, our school lunch provider. They've just done an absolutely fabulous job meeting this need in the community. School reopening, we set up a date of April 12th for some of our regular grades. Pre-K, kindergarten, grades 1, 6, 9, and 12. And we were going to attempt to open as early as March 15th for some small populations, the high need special ed, SLIFE, and vocational. SLIFE is an ELL program. We're still looking to attempt to do that, but that's subject to us finishing our ventilation work, taking a look with our health commissioner. The community is still in red at the COVID rates, and subject to collective bargaining negotiations with all of our unions. So that's still a work in progress. We're going to be meeting with the school committee on that this week. Tremendous progress is being made on the ventilation work. We're going through the schools, and Pat Sullivan is setting up tours to go through some of the older buildings that had some of the most complicated ventilation work, and that's coming along very, very well. In the meantime, our remote program is going very well. We're still holding at over 92% average daily attendance. Our teachers are doing an absolutely incredible job meeting the needs of our students and their families and keeping this going in an exemplary manner. Winter sports, we concluded a successful season thanks to the support of our health commissioner, Helen Calton-Harris, who's been like a member of our team. We had 3 testing periods and were able to conclude the season successfully. And we're going to start our what we call the Fall 2 sports season with MIAA, which is going to start March 1st, and it's football and volleyball in the city of Springfield. So we're going to get those sports going, and again, there's going to be testing this week for our student athletes and the coaches. And I think those 3 different testing sessions is what made this program operate safely and successfully. So very, very grateful for our health commissioner, AD Early, and Assistant Superintendent Lydia Martinez for pulling all that together. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. We'll now get an update from the Department of Public Works, Director Chris Signoli.
Mayor, thank you very much. The DPW has 2 employees out with COVID. We will be having some snow this afternoon. However, it shouldn't really amount to anything. May turn into some rain. However, we will be having some freezing tonight. We're going to be in a pattern during the week of temperatures in the 40s for the next 10 to 12 days with a lot of freezing at night, so be careful of the travel out there. I mentioned a couple weeks in a row about water main breaks. There was a number last week, one this morning up on Boston Road that we work with Water and Sewer on any repairs if necessary. Last item I have, we've been getting a lot of phone calls about water in the basements. And in most cases, the call comes in that there's a water main break and I'm getting water in my basement. In all cases but one, it basically turned into melting snow that was around the foundation. The soils around the foundation are still not frozen. So the water's basically coming back into the house. So I recommend to all the residents out there, clear around your house and make sure that the water can get away. And over the next 2 weeks with some melting that will happen, if it doesn't go away in your house, it will end up in your basement. That is it, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Signoli. Now we'll get an update from Facilities and Parks Director Patrick Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 0 out with COVID. I'm requesting the residents continue with their patience as you have to come into our buildings. We require the mask, we require the hand sanitizing, and we're getting a lot of calls for people wanting to plan events. Springfield is still red, and we still need to be cautious, but we need you to understand this and remain patient. We want to open as soon as we can, but we have to follow the guidance and the science of this pandemic. I want to congratulate the Mayor, Commissioner Calton-Harris, and Superintendent Warwick on a successful vaccination at Boland School, and AMR, Patrick Leonardo. It's been a pleasure to be working with you as well. But it was very great to see a successful vaccination. I was in and out of Boland last week to offer any support, and you see the different departments, our HR department had staff there and so forth. So it was a great operation commanded by Commissioner Helen Calton-Harris. We are completing the updates to the collectors to the 3 windows for the basement level, and that will be ready for March 8th. We're setting up school tours with our industrial hygienist. He will be concentrating on the 5 schools that were recommended for additional work, and I think those will pass. By early next week, we'll have that information. In supporting Commissioner Calvey's request, parents, please talk to your youth about ice safety. It is very, very unsafe in Springfield at this time, and especially with the warming weather this week. And then last, after seeing what happened to those poor people in Texas, our Texas would be in the summer when we have long heat wave periods and the potential for rolling blackouts here. So if everyone in the Upper Hill, Old Hill, and McKnight neighborhoods would consider planting a tree, we have that $1.5 million grant. It would reduce the temperature in your yard by up to 7 degrees, and that helps us with the electrical and so forth, and we're going to be pushing for more tree planting across the city, so we're ready in the future. So I would just ask those residents to really consider doing this, because in the long run, you're going to help Springfield's environment by planting a tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. I don't know if you heard the tolling of the bells there. Maybe, I think that's a good sign or a good omen. It was either from the Campanile or Old First Church, but it tolled about 3 or 4 times to me, so knock on wood. And I think Helen said it the other week, we're almost a year now since we've been doing these press conferences, and one time we were doing daily meetings, so hopefully that was a good omen, a good sign. Speaking of a good omen, a good sign, I'm going to bring up my Chief Development Officer, Tim Sheehan, who at Springfield's in the business of doing business, and we're going to continue to do that, and I thank Tim and his team. He'll give you updates on what we're doing to continue to stabilize and prop up our businesses. Chief Development Officer, Tim Sheehan.
Thanks, Mayor. Development Services continues to process the small business COVID-related loans to are expected to close this week. There are 10 that are currently in underwriting or review with Common Capital. We're continuing to process the Springfield resident rent, mortgage, and utility assistance through Wayfinders at roughly 50 applications being approved on a monthly basis. This funding is getting low, though. We're anticipating that we probably have about a month or so left in terms of the financial commitment that we made to Wayfinders. Our work's ongoing with ongoing to shelter the homeless population through enhanced social work outreach via Catholic Charities in conjunction with the police department. Our need in this program, we're trying to work on a program so that we can get the vaccination mobilized so that it can get to the folks that are being serviced. Lastly, we're finalizing the nonprofit RFPs for both the workforce development related to tech and the direct small business technical assistance. We anticipate that the 2 RFPs will total between $200,000 and $250,000. Lastly, SBA is announcing today that beginning on Wednesday, there will be a 14-day freeze on loans to businesses with 20 or more employees. This is being done to allow the appropriate focus on the nation's smallest businesses. It's been suggested that the president is scheduled today to speak after noon about small business, and we look forward to hearing what he has to say in that regard as it relates to COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sheehan. And again, on the mortgages, utilities, and rents, that was $2 million that Director Sheehan and myself, and we want to thank the flexibility of Congressman Neal, Chairman Neal, that gave us the flexibility on CARES and CDBG. So that money is going. We're hopeful we can replenish it, as with the small business in the city of Springfield. And just to echo what Director Patrick Sullivan indicated with City Hall and our municipal buildings, we've never shut down City Hall, unlike other areas across the Commonwealth. We kept it open via appointment, but we have to follow the COVID-19 health codes to protect and preserve our workforce. So again, it's imperative, and the community's been good about when you come here, you have to wear your mask. Hand sanitizers are there, but you also, a temperature take is done to each and every one of us going in and out of the building. And so far, that's worked very, very well. At this point in time, we'll open up to any questions or comments you might have, my cabinet heads or myself. Paul?
I have a question for
Ellen? Commissioner Colton here, please.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any figures for the East Hampton Hall
Yes, I do have some data from Eastfield Mall. I have not had an opportunity to drill down on it. I have the data for zip codes. What I've seen overall is that the vaccination rates in the areas where we have 01109, 01108, 01104, those rates appear to be lower than other rates across the city. Again, I have not analyzed them. I'm in the process of doing that. That data was just sent to me yesterday or Saturday.
Paul, the communication, since we made those edicts, has been, the communication, since I made those edicts with curative in the state, much, much better. The communicating with Commissioner Carlton Harris and with my Chief of Staff, Tom Ash, on updates on the situation. So that communication work is, which has made for a much smoother process up there.
There are still issues there though in terms of transportation, people getting out there, people going.
Yes.
So that's why you want to neighborhood sites.
That's right, but also with Commissioner Helen Carlton Harris, we were on with State Public Health Commissioner Monica Burrell last week on a Zoom meeting. And again, she indicated that Springfield is way ahead of everybody in the state for what we've done. Not only the Vax Force, which they're putting together now, we've already started that, but a couple components we didn't want a duplication. We brought up that monetary assets, the advertising assets, but they mentioned transportation. So we said we would be more than happy to try to get those type of assets here. They have some type of structured transportation if possible, following all the COVID-19 protocol aspects, the safety checks with Commissioner Clapperud, and how we might be able to do that for individuals who need to get up there and need a reliable, trustworthy transportation. But Helen and I, and we do have a plan, we would like to get, working with AMR and Bay State, Dr. Kerouac, our own sites. And we would strategically place them, 10 sites throughout the city of Springfield, our neighborhoods, some in public buildings, some in houses of worship, St. John's and others, and also working with Bay State and Stick. So we're ready to go on that, so we're hopeful on that. But again, to the seniors, Paul, what you brought up, if you don't know these people that are contacting you, they are not going to be trustworthy. So please pay no heed to them. If they say they're going to give you a ride, they're going to help you with your taxes, they kidnap your granddaughter. Again, I tell you what I like to do to some of these SOBs. So that was part, and I know that Commissioner Burrell or representatives will be on Tuesday with us. So they didn't really, we're already doing things that they're putting across. But two of those things they mentioned, three actually, we said, bring it on, we'll take that assistance. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I want to thank the media again for your attention and getting this information out to TV and print and radio. It's extremely important. We're making headway. We have to stay ever vigilant. And I want to thank you, the public, the residents and business community of the city of Springfield, for your continued patience. I know it's been very aggravating to each and every one of us and our families, but your collaboration, your cooperation, and working together. We will defeat this COVID-19, and I'm very thankful to my cabinet heads all the way down the rank and file, and I can't say it enough, tested and true through a number of man-made and natural disasters. And I'm hopeful that we don't have to meet like this in the near future, and we can go on with our lives. To each and every one of you and your families, good health, and go out and have a great day. God bless. Thank you.